Andrew is the co-founder of Infatuation.
There just wasn't a situational dining discovery platform in a way that like we wanted it to be. And so we were like, screw it. If you're not willing to dive in full time and commit your entire being to this thing that you are building, you are not going to be successful. The best entrepreneurs are people who give a shit.
You guys were very honest in your reviews. Was there ever a situation where you maybe gave a restaurant not the review that they were looking for?
All the time.
Andrew Steinthal, welcome to Post Run High.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
How was the run for you?
It was great. I've been a big fan of what you are building here with this whole thing as somebody who runs a lot and very much enjoys talking on the phone while running a lot. It's fun to do an interview while running.
Who's your go-to call?
That's a great question. It just depends. I feel like I have a friend, Brent Montgomery, who is always giving me a hard time. You can't believe that we can have 20-minute conversations while we go over various business things on the phone, and he likes to tell everybody about it. So shout out to Brent.
Wait, do you know that I love Brent Montgomery? He's kind of a friend. I would call him a friend.
Well, I think Wheelhouse should probably make a show out of the running show to distribute to all of the platforms and evolve this as just, right now you're on TikTok and Instagram, but like there's a way larger swath of people that could be interested in a running interview show. Like this should be a segment on the Today Show someday. This should be a segment somewhere else. Like there's just so many places this could go because it's such a fun, informal way to get to know people.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Brent?
He's got it.
That's so funny. And it's so true. He's such a great guy, and Wheelhouse is doing such cool stuff. So it's cool to know that you guys are good friends and that he's your go-to call when you're running, and makes a lot of sense. He's definitely a talker. So Andrew is the co-founder of Infatuation. You're also a great runner. We're going to get to everything that you guys built with Infatuation, but I want to start out talking a little bit about the run because I like finding out that co-founders are runners, because I think oftentimes people misconstrue being busy and having this like crazy job with not having the time to work out or move your body, right? So has running always been a big part of your life?
Yeah. I mean, you got to make the time. I think that's with anything, right? Like if you care about it and are passionate about it, you find the time and you figure out how to get it done. And for me, like running has always been like, I've never done therapy. So running is my own therapy, right? Where like, I kind of need it. And if I don't do it for a couple days, I get a little crazy. Like my wife is like, can you please go on a run or something to clear your mind so you can stop being a grouch? And I think it's just something that I've been doing for a long time and very much enjoy. And it's time for myself with my music or my podcasts and nobody else for the most part, unless I'm making phone calls.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I completely relate and agree. It really is therapy in a big way. And it's a nice time to collect your thoughts and also come up with some of your best ideas, maybe.
For sure. No, 100%. I mean, I will voice note all kinds of things that I think about on my run. Like the run is basically for other people, their showers, right? Where you're like, oh, I think of the best ideas in the showers. Like my best ideas generally come when I'm out running because you're finally like alone with your thoughts for a little bit and the creative juices are flowing.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking to us on the run saying that in the early days of Infatuation, you guys bridged running with Infatuation as you were kind of starting the company. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, we were, as we were discussing on the run, the Infatuation, which was originally called Immaculate Infatuation, was a side hustle for 5 years while we had jobs in the music business. And both my business partner, Chris Stang, and I both loved run. Like we were both runners and like we were doing half marathons and just kind of messing around and having fun. And we started doing the half marathon, specifically the Brooklyn half marathon, and we got our community to come run it with us. And so we would organize training runs for like, I'd say 8 weeks leading into the race and bring people together in Central Park or Prospect Park or, out here in Dumbo or wherever and get people together to run, meet each other, hang, and then we'd go eat somewhere great afterwards. And so this became a thing that we would do, and we would get everybody shirts with our logo on it and, ultimately had 50, 75, 100 people running with us every time. And it was just a great way to build community and build our brand, right? And I think so much of building a brand is bringing together like-minded people. And that is such a powerful thing. And so I met some great people that way and people I still have relationships with. And I was telling you before, but like one of the best things that happened out of that run club era for us was, I remember we got an email from this woman who, it was a photo of her and a bride, and she was like, FYI, I am the bridesmaid in this wedding, And we met on an Immaculate Infatuation training run for the Brooklyn Half Marathon, and that's where we became friends.
So you guys really, like the Immaculate Infatuation, those run clubs, you guys did them for a while in New York.
Yeah, it was like, we didn't call them run club. I feel like you ruined that for everybody.
We see this boom of run clubs happening right now, but it's just so awesome to know that existed it's been around for so long, right? Like run clubs and the idea of coming together through running.
Correct.
It's just,
do you think, have we reached peak run club already in New York City? I feel like it can't get like the oversaturation point and like the dating run clubs and all the insanity that I see on the internet. like can we keep going up, or have we reached the peak?
Okay, well, what do you think? I feel like you're the brand guy.
I mean, I'm an old man now, so I'm not in it every day. I'm not going to them. I don't know what's going on the streets, but
you're still running a lot.
I'm still running a lot.
Yeah.
It looks like we've reached the peak, and like we need to settle down a little bit and find the next club thing to like date around.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's like when I went to school here, I feel like run clubs definitely weren't as big. I don't feel like when I was I went to college, Fordham Lincoln Center. And when I would go to a run club, it was like I was running the New York City Marathon through obviously New York Road Runners or the Team for Kids. And I would be going to the New York Road Runners organized runs, or I'd be going to the Team for Kids organized runs. And now it's literally like everybody has a run club. Like I think Jeremy was at a run club the other day for founders. There's literally a run club for every single niche. I think it's awesome. I'm a big believer in coming together through being active. I think it's awesome. I think a lot of people think about New York, and like my older brother would say to me when I was younger, the only things to do in New York are eat and drink. And I'm like, you know what? He's a finance bro. I totally get that from his perspective. But for me, I always felt totally different because, I love running with people and connecting through movement. So I think the run club thing is great. I would like to be able to go for a run on the West Side Highway without being swarmed by a flock of like 100 people.
Yeah, it's crowded. It's crowded out there, but it's great. I mean, listen, I love that brands like Bandit are building out communities around connection and membership and run clubs and all that stuff. And it's really interesting. And it's a cool model. And that idea, similar to what Infatuation was originally, yes, we reviewed restaurants and help people figure out where to go. But what we always have been is a brand that's building community and building connections around with people that are like-minded. And running is such an amazing tool to do that.
Right. So how did you and Chris meet? You were working in music.
The story is we were both music directors at our respective college radio stations when we were both in college. And so I was at Ithaca College. WICB was the music radio station I was a music director at. He was at KCSU, Colorado State. We actually met at a CMJ music convention in the year 2000. We were both invited to MTV TRL, Total Request Live. And we were this guy that worked us records picked his 6 favorite music directors to go to TRL. And he and I met online walking into TRL, and ultimately were sat next to each other. Destiny's Child was the guest on TRL that day. Jumpin' Jumpin' was the song. They removed me and Chris within the first commercial break because we were not freaking out enough behind Carson Daly. But that was how we met, and we became fast friends and drank a couple beers that night. And we're like, oh, we're gonna take over the music business together. And he moved to New York after college, and we both ultimately got jobs at Warner Music Group, and always sort of just had this like bond and entrepreneurial idea and spirit that we wanted to do together. We always wanted to do something, and ultimately Immaculate Infatuation was the path. And that's how it started.
What were some of the other ideas that you guys would be like brainstorming together?
I wanted to start a t-shirt company. I've always been obsessed with like apparel, and there was this t-shirt store in the East Village that you could like make these custom t-shirts, and I was making all these stupid custom t-shirts. And so I made one. I called it, we had the t-shirt company called My Future. We made one total t-shirt that never got anywhere. The best business idea that I still think is a good idea was we both had single moms, and we had an idea for dateourmoms.com, which was a dating website where the kids would post for their parents, right? Or they're like, it could be a niece or nephew or coworker or like somebody, because my mom was not somebody and isn't somebody who's going to go put herself on a dating platform. And I think there is there is a bond that can very quickly be formed between two older people who both have really close relationships with their kids. And if the kids have a close enough relationship with the parents that they care enough to go on, spend their time trying to help set their parents up with somebody special, like there could be something there. So that one we never ultimately did, but that was in the hopper as an opportunity.
Did you ever pitch that idea to your mom?
Yeah, she was like embarrassed and was like, "What are you doing?"
You're like, Mom,
but also
I have
she
this
was
idea.
like, "I'm available for some dates."
Yeah, literally, I was gonna say, you're like, Mom, I have this idea. And not only do I have this idea, but you're also gonna be the poster mom for it. So
Yeah.
get ready.
She doesn't like being in the spotlight, but
Yeah.
she's the best.
That's so cute. Okay, well, so you guys were working at Warner Music, and at what point did you guys start Infatuation?
So this whole thing started, we became, myself and Chris, at least in our group of friends at work, we became the guys who like knew the city well, right? Like we would go to restaurants and bars and like had strong opinions and could help tell people where to go. And it ultimately came to the fact that like when we were getting all these inbound requests from friends and coworkers, you're like, maybe we should do something with this, right? Like, and at that time there was nothing that was relatable for us as it related to restaurant reviews, right? There was very serious criticism, right? In the newspapers, in the magazines, and even on the blogs. It was all like very serious food people. And we were more these like guys in the music business who are like, yeah, the vibes, the playlist, the food, the burger, like situational dining needs where you need someplace to go on a date with your boyfriend or girlfriend, which is different than first date with somebody you just met, right? Or you're going out with your parents, or you've got people coming in from Europe that you want to entertain, or you're looking for something late night. And like, there just wasn't a situational dining discovery platform in a way that like we wanted it to be. And so we would go to the back of New York Magazine, right? And like they had like little listings about the restaurants back there. That was the most useful tool for us. And it wasn't really that useful ultimately, right? Like, and so we were like, screw it. Like, let's write restaurant reviews and build it all around this like perfect for ecosystem of tags so that you could find the right place for the right occasion or the right place near a music venue. Obviously, we worked in the music business, so it was like we'd tag all the restaurants that were near Bowery Ballroom or Madison Square Garden or Williamsburg Music Hall or any of those places, right? Because we needed places before or after shows. So that was how it started. And we basically applied everything we knew about building bands, which we'd been doing for 12 years, to building a brand that happened to represent restaurant discovery. It was write hit songs and play shows, right? And so it was like, cool. We had a new restaurant review every day. We flip-flopped every single day. There was never a day off. And every Friday, I was a publicist. So I would go chase down celebrities, like basically what you're doing on the show, like try and go get, Jerry Seinfeld and Anthony Bourdain, may he rest in peace, and Padma Lakshmi to like give us their 5 favorite restaurants in New York City and then cross our fingers that they would post it on their back then Facebook page. Because if they posted on their Facebook page, we would get all these new eyeballs on us, right? And so we were just really consistent with the content. So it was like write hit songs and then play shows, get people together, right? Whether that was getting together to run training runs for the Brooklyn Half Marathon or hosting parties. We threw parties. Like we did a lot of events and we just brought people together. We used to have an event that we did called the Turkey Leg Ball, which was our first foray into like larger scale events, but it was right before Thanksgiving. Our logo was a turkey leg back in the day.
Now your infatuation is
it's evolved into what is a ham horn, but it was ridiculous.
It makes so much sense. And like when I think about Infatuation, I do think about how conversational the platform was, right? And it was
super
like,
relatable.
like your first date, this is a good spot to go. Ambiance is X. Like it was very situational and conversational.
And the idea was always like, write the review like you're talking to your friend, right? And like always like when people would be like, oh, how do you write for the Infatuation? We never hired food writers, right? Like, and me and Chris wrote everything for the first 6 years, right?
So your day-to-day life was like, you would go to work, right? You'd work your job in the music industry and then you'd be going out to dinner. And then you'd
stay up till 2 a.m. writing the review for the next day. We would flip-flop who wrote what and then do it all over again, right? And so it was like...
No sleep, go to work, full meal.
Right, and the running was really important then because you had to have a balance because we were gross. Like back at that, after doing that for like 6-7 years, I felt horrible, which then had me like really transitioned to be like, all right, I need to work out as much as humanly possible.
I mean, that is like, I feel like one of the things that's so under talked about. And I know you guys don't like the word foodie, but with foodies online, like content creators that are, because there's a lot of content creators now that specifically do food reviews. And I am always wondering with them, like some days they'll do reviews where it's like they're going to 5 places in one day, trying out like 5 different burger joints, right? And I'm thinking to myself, how do they possibly stomach all this food and not,
there's no way
get unhealthy,
there's no
right?
way they eat it all.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's that was the lifestyle. And so like the events were a big part of us building this brand and bringing people together. And that's what ultimately led us to really, building something in New York to start that people cared about. People were into it. It was like a thing. It became, something that people identified with, which was really cool. And it led, like the turkey leg ball ultimately led to us starting our own festival called EatsCon. And like, this whole thing, like it was like one thing after the next. And we were first generation social media. So when we launched the same year Twitter started.
Right. 2009.
Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe Twitter started in 2008, but like same era. Right. Mm-hmm. And we were early on Instagram, like beginning of Instagram, we would do hashtag contests and then eventually landed on the fact, oh no, we need our own hashtag and make people use it. And so we started the Eats hashtag with 5 E's because it was like, oh, people are like, what is that? What is Eats? And it's like, people are like, we didn't want to do like Infatuation gram or like something weird like that. So we used Eats as our calling card. And I remember, I ran all our socials and just spent hours and hours and hours and encouraging people, engaging like with anybody who was using the hashtag, liking their photos, commenting, building community through social and reposting photos that were great. And people would be like, oh my God, that like I'm famous moment, you're on the Infatuation Instagram, which back then didn't have that many followers, but like that was just something that fueled our growth and built community, right? And that ultimately that Eats brand almost became bigger than the Infatuation brand almost on Instagram. And it led us to be like, okay, we had come from the music business, know a lot about the music festival ecosystem. We had been working with the guys at Governor's Ball for a long time to like curate the food there. That was always an amazing platform for us to be able to get involved and see how they ran their festival from the vending perspective, and ultimately come up with our own concept around being a music fan and working in the music business, and then working with a lot of the festivals from outside lands to Coachella to Governor's Ball to be like, look, people are really interested in the food almost as much as they are the music these days. Like we should do the music business, music festival model, but with a food festival and make it something that is, has headliners, has discovery things, but that is like a really fun, programmed, culturally vibrant place, which is what birthed our festival EatsCon that we now do in 4 markets. So it's been this like evolution of like, we started in the music business and know how to do stuff from the music business, and then taking that approach to like something that is kind of different.
And I mean, what I find so impressive is for 5 years, it seems like from what you're saying, like you guys had so much momentum, right? And like Infatuation was a grassroots approach, but it was starting to take off. You're starting to work on iconic events like Governor's Ball. I mean, that's a huge New York festival, music festival. Did you guys have moments during those 5 years? Were you ever like, oh, this is unsustainable, like I'm just too busy with work? And what did you kind of do in those moments, and what kept you guys going?
Yeah, I think what kept us going is that we ultimately once this thing started to hit, and once you feel, and I'm sure that you feel this with what you're doing, when you get that positive reinforcement from people, when you feel, it starts when it's like, your friends and family are like, yeah, that's cool, that's cute, whatever, right? But then all of a sudden, when you start getting emails from random people, or you meet somebody out that they're like, oh my God, I know what you do and I like it, right? You just start to like feel this. And when that momentum starts to build, you can have down moments, you can feel, life, everything goes up, everything goes down. You gotta stay as grounded as possible. But those positive reinforcements really can keep you going. And if you really see that you have something people care about, it's hard not to want to chase it even further to make it as big as it could possibly be. It was at first, it was so slow and but we would be there every day on Google Analytics, just looking at the website, oh, we got to 100. Can we get to 1,000? Can we get to 2,000? Can we get to 10,000? You know what I mean? And like ultimately, like getting to 1 million was we were dying to get there, and we never we didn't pay. It was all organic. You know, it was we never spent any money. It was all bootstrapped, right? It was all real. And I think that was such a important thing that we didn't even plan really, in a sense, right? Like we had the luxury of spending 5 years while we had full-time jobs, figure out if this thing had product market fit, right? And like got to the point where it was undeniable that this was a thing. What that thing was going to be, what this business was going to be, what the end result was going to be, who knows? But ultimately we were like, we can build this brand. People are into it, what we're doing. And there's a huge opportunity out there because there's nothing really like it, right?
No, and it's interesting because I was interviewing the CEO of Build-A-Bear the other day, and something that she said to me that was really interesting is when they think about like selling products, you think about like somebody's daily life, right? And like their day-to-day. So like their, 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. And you kind of figure out like where are the ways that we can infiltrate somebody's day. And I think it makes so much sense, Infatuation, for New Yorkers, because New Yorkers, we go to work. And then sometimes when we're on our lunch break or after work, we're on Google trying to figure out where should we go to dinner? I want to plan this event with my friends for the weekend. So you guys really broke into like the daily habits
100%.
of people's lives in New York.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, I think that was always the thing. If when you're thinking, oh, restaurant, I need to figure out where to go, and now all of a sudden you're going to the Infatuation because you associate that we are your beacon of trust as it relates to figuring out where to go. That becomes something that people start to use in their daily life. And look, the big challenge for us, it was always the two of us who were writing. And then it was like, can we transition this off of just us two to other people in New York, and then ultimately find other people like us who weren't professional restaurant critics, but were, people who worked in, who were actors, who were lawyers, who worked in cosmetics, who, we have all kinds of hilarious stories. Like one of the women who was writing for us in Chicago for a long time was a hairdresser, and was super passionate about food, and like was one of the best writers we've ever had. She's amazing. And now is like one of our managing editors for the whole site and is the best. Shout out to Adrian. But like,
How did you find her?
So the guy, Sam Fay, who was
this is when you started expanding into other cities.
Yeah, well, when we left our job, when we were getting ready to leave our jobs, it was hilarious because you talk about positive reinforcement and people knowing what you were doing. I actually had jury duty and got put on as an alternate for this case. And we were in the jury room. Right when you left your job? Right. I was like we were close to leaving. We were like probably 6 months away from leaving. And I went to jury duty. And we were all sitting in this little room and introducing ourselves to one another. We were going to be together for 2 weeks. And it was like, my name's Andrew. I work at a record label.
So not only did you go to jury duty, but you got selected.
I got selected, even though I tried really hard to get out. And so I was like, I have a restaurant review website. And this guy who was sitting next to me was like, oh my God, Immaculate Infatuation. Oh my God. And was like losing his mind. And all these other people like were looking at him like, what is wrong with this guy? And like, he was like, no, I'm from Chicago. And like, you guys need to come to Chicago. Like we're upset. We need this so badly in Chicago. You got to meet my friend. I'm like, dude, find me somebody in Chicago and like, maybe we'll see. And he's like, I'm going to email all my friends. I'm like, great. And so whatever, cut to months later. And like 2 weeks later, I got an email from somebody that I didn't really look at or think about, but he was a friend of this guy's. And I remember he was like, I'm in Chicago, whatever. And then cut to 4 months later, we had left our jobs. And the first week we had this conference in Chicago. And I remember Chris being like, is there anybody we should meet in Chicago? And I was like, I've got this email from this guy. And I pulled up this email from a guy named Sam Fay, who ultimately became one of our first employees, who we wound up meeting that day and loving. And he has been with us forever. And ultimately, Sam built Chicago for us. He now does other things at JPMorgan Chase on the sponsorships and talent front with us. But he used to get his hair cut by this woman, Adrian. And so he would go in and get his hair cut and talk about restaurants with his hairdresser. And Adrian, ultimately, when he was looking to expand his role and stop writing all the restaurant reviews, because you can only do this for so long before you are gonna
burn out
on eating at restaurants a bazillion days. She was like, yeah, that would be amazing. So like the web of hilarity of jury duty to this guy leaving his job as a lawyer to be like, screw it, I'm gonna go write restaurant reviews and build a Chicago thing, to like us hiring the woman that cut his hair as the next person. It just, it's just amazing.
It
it's
is
kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And food is one of those things where obviously we eat it every day and people are really passionate about it. So it's like you can find it's so funny that like
And I think that was always what we said to people. It's like, everybody, that's why we hate the word foodie so much, where it's like, oh my God, I'm such a foodie. I want to write for the Infatuation. It's like, congrats. Everybody loves food. Like, right. But like, what kind of story can you tell? What kind of perspective can you bring? And like, how can you make restaurant reviews entertaining and fun, but also with a perspective that people are going to be like, oh, I want to read something else by them. Right. I trust them. Right.
So what do you look for in a writer for Infatuation?
Like levity, humor, storytelling ability. How do you weave in references that are pop culture that like, and how do you analyze the experience of the restaurant and not just like the food, right? And listen, writing is hard. I've never been a great writer. I mean, I've figured out how to do it, but Chris was always a way better writer and editor than I was. Didn't come easy to me. Like I would go in stretches where I was like, I can't figure, like it just what it like, it was hard.
But that's where the voice that you guys were writing from with Infatuation probably came into play.
The people would find you, right? You could get, and like, there would be emails that would land in our inbox sometimes from somebody and be like, oh my God, yes, this person, find this person immediately because this is our kind of person. And it just, they had that personality, that humor, that swag about how they wrote, and it stood out.
So was Chicago the first city that you guys expanded to outside of New York?
It's a great question. I think I think it was Chicago and then LA. And then we did Denver. Chris was from Denver, and Denver was sort of a failed experiment. But I think you also realize that like, oh, Denver's a market that people don't use restaurants the way they use them in their daily lives, like in New York or in LA or even in Miami or Chicago, right? It's like people go out to eat every once in a while. And it's not like there aren't a lot of new restaurants that open every year. So it was like, oh, we need to focus first on the markets that have the saturation from a restaurant perspective and all the new stuff opening and people who like are really dialed into the restaurant scenes.
What was the hardest part about expanding outside of New York?
It was the voice, like trying to translate the voice that we had built in New York with the two of us to other markets with other people, right? And I think that credit to Chris and Hillary Reinsberg, who was our first employee, who's still with us. They wrote up an amazing style guide, and they spent so much time building out a handbook about how we do things. And everybody's different, but if you can take the Infatuation idea and voice and make it your own, that's incredible. And that's what's happened in a bunch of these markets. And we have some amazing people that have been writing for us for a long time. And we found all these different voices that, have continued to grow the brand and build what it is today. And it's amazing.
Is it wild to think about like where you guys are now compared to when you first started?
It's absolutely insane. Like if you had ever told me that this is how this would all net out, I'd be like a pipe dream, right? But it somehow has worked out, and I'm extremely grateful. And I can't believe that this is what's happened. I think we made a lot of right decisions along the way. I think we screwed some things up, but I think in general, Chris had a vision for a lot of this with the voice and saying no to so many different opportunities and being very focused on, just doing one thing and doing that one thing really well. And I think it's a testament to like, you can't be everything to everybody. We never did recipes. We never did news. We never did traditional video. We were like, we do restaurant reviews and guides. That's what we do. And all of our content is geared toward that on the Infatuation front. And then we bring people together through experiences. Is
there ever an experience that you guys said no to that you regret saying no to?
No.
I think... Or was there ever an experience that you said no to at first and then came back around and you were like, yes, now we can say yes to it?
I always wanted to do, we were a little torn on it. I wanted to go, I was like, we were huge Top Chef fans. And one of the first brand partnerships we ever did was with Bravo around Top Chef. It was just some little like local event thing, but I thought it was so cool because we were like, oh my God, we got to do Top Chef. We got to do something with Top Chef. And we were just like Padma and Gail and just like the whole dynamic they were building. I mean, Top Chef, we were born out of a moment where so much of the energy around dining when we started was what Top Chef had created, right? And so I had always dreamed of being on Top Chef, like being a guest judge or whatever. That never materialized, but that's one of those things that I look back on and I'm like, damn, I wish we
I feel like you could still do that.
Yeah, probably.
You'd be
Maybe.
good. You have such like the personality for it. You know, my first ever celebrity guest on the Running Interview Show. Do you know who it was?
Who?
Bobby Flay.
Oh, Bobby Flay. That guy's great.
Yeah.
He's the best. We did this video. We didn't do traditional video, but Chris wrote this fake restaurant review once called Underfinger. Probably to this day, the best thing we ever did is Infatuation. He wrote this fake restaurant review when like there was this Nordic craze, which is absurd to say.
What is a Nordic craze?
It was like all these restaurants from Copenhagen and Denmark and like had all of these interesting restaurants that were opening up in Brooklyn. And it was just like a thing for a while in New York. And Chris wrote this hilarious review of a fake restaurant on the Lower East Side that was serving seahorse sashimi and a meat glove and people thought it was real, and the New York Times picked it up, knowing it was fake, but saying that it was hilarious. But you had people calling a number on it, and it became this thing for a minute on the internet. And there was a chef named Justin Warner who had this restaurant, Do or Die, and he was like this he did creative, weird, wild stuff, and he was on Food Network, and he was super into that restaurant review. He was like, dude, can we make this real? Can we please make this real? And so Chris and Justin made this real and filmed this like Spinal Tap type of movie as we made the restaurant real for a night, right? And Bobby Flay played a key role in it because he was super into it as well, and he was in the film
He's good at figuring out like what's going on.
It was so good, but but Bobby, we are appreciative to Bobby forever because he was into what we were doing, as weird and stupid as it was. You know, he got into it, and it was really cool.
Yeah, you know, Bobby Flay's got his finger on the pulse. He really does.
Yeah, I remember Chris told a story. I'd say like Underfinger had just come out, and Chris was eating at the bar at Gato, which was at that time one of his new restaurants. And Bobby had come, they'd never met before. And I remember Chris was always a big Bobby Flay guy. And Bobby came up to Chris and was like, yo, Underfinger? And Stang was like, what? He's like, yo, we're making a video. You want to be in it? And he was like, hell yes. So Bobby Flay's good people.
What finally gave you the confidence after those 5 years of, you know, managing both your full-time job and starting Infatuation to go full-time with Infatuation?
Well, Chris, my business partner, was ready to go. And he's like, all right, dude, like it's time. I was ready to stay and I had just had my first kid, and I liked my like paying job. But at the end of the day, like if you want to realize your full potential for something, and we had product market fit, we could feel it, right? Like you had all of this positive reinforcement consistently. You could feel that there was something there. And if you're not willing to dive in full time and commit your entire being to this thing that you are building, you are not going to be successful at all. And it got to the point where it was like, it no longer could we do our real jobs and our side hustle at the same time. It was, you had to pick one or the other. And it was obviously going to be the thing we'd been building for 5 years, right? And so it was like, okay, you rip the Band-Aid off and you go figure it out. And it was not easy, but we had the luxury of being able to work full-time jobs for 5 years to get ourselves to a point where we were ready to commit to doing that. And I highly suggest other aspiring entrepreneurs, start something on the side. Mess around, see if there's a fit before you're like, this is my thing, right? Because I think a lot of times people will be like, this is my thing in my mind, and I'm so committed to this thing in my mind. But in reality, do people want that thing? TBD, right? And like, if some people don't want that thing, you should not do that full time, right? But like, if you can find something where there really is traction and there's something there, and even if you can't determine exactly what that is initially, but you feel it and it's like, it's showing that to you day in and day out that people care, go for it.
Mm-hmm. What did having your first child, motivate you even more?
I mean, I think ultimately I was motivated to have a great life for myself and for my family. And I think that we wanted to, I think Chris and I both were keen to be successful in our careers, make some money, be able to be in control of our own time ultimately. And, so yeah, having kids obviously will make you care a lot more and also stress a lot more because they're not cheap.
Yeah, especially on the East Coast. But no. Was your wife in support of it when you went full time?
Yeah, my wife has been amazing. I mean, she's been supportive of this journey the whole way. And I've been an insane roller coaster of emotions and travel and just insanity. So Shoshana's been very supportive and been around for this whole ride. So
yeah. Shout out to her. Yeah, seriously.
Sure.
No, the founder journey really does come with so many highs and lows.
God.
How do you deal with the lows and, not let the highs get too high?
Yeah, the lows, I mean, this thing will chew you up and spit you out. Like this stuff I've hit rock bottom multiple times in multiple experiences with this company, and it's hard. The pandemic was really hard, like there's a lot going on, but just like in life, you got to be resilient across the board. I think that's anybody has to deal with that, whether you're an entrepreneur or just a regular person who's doing their regular job and living their life, and you got to figure out how to deal with, not get too high on the highs and not get too lows on the lows, and realize that it's all about that equilibrium. So
when you look back on Infatuation, what were some of the big turning points for you guys where you were like, oh, wow, we are now we're pushing this company in a completely different direction?
I think there's little things in the beginning. I remember in the beginning, one of the biggest aha moments was we had put tickets on sale to our first event. We were doing this thing called Turkey Leg Ball. Our logo was a turkey leg back in the day. And so we were like, we got to get our people together. And so we threw this party. We had no idea what we were doing, but this was our first thing. I remember we put tickets on sale. I think they were like 25 or 50 bucks. And we had emailed it out to our email list. And I remember going into a meeting at work, a marketing meeting at Warner Music Group, and had sent the email out and came out, and we had sold out in an hour of 300 tickets before we'd even send to our friends and family or whatever. And I remember looking at the manifest of people who bought tickets. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. What is going on, right? And it's we are selling out 300 cap rooms in an hour. It was mind-boggling, right? And she was just like, those were the things. And then you have that party and see all these people come together, all excited to be a part of the brand, and you're just like, okay, there's something real here, And I think those types of things happen time and time again, and at different levels, but super exciting when those things happen.
Right. In 2018, you guys acquired Zagat, right?
Yeah.
And Zagat was a historic kind of Infatuation before Infatuation, right?
Totally.
And I don't know much about Zagat because I only know kind of what I was seeing online today.
Yeah.
I guess it was a pamphlet that was handed out during the holiday.
You are a young girl.
Okay, what was Zagat?
Zagat.
Zagat?
Which
okay.
we learned in the process of acquiring it is how you pronounce it. Zagat, like the cat. But Tim and Nina Zagat started it was always survey based. They printed a book every year that was that maroon, little larger than a pocket sized, but it was all done via survey. So they would go out to their audience, and the audience would fill out surveys and send those surveys back. And then they would pull quotes and they would average out the ratings based upon what the community said. It was the first version of user-generated content, just physical, right? Before Yelp, Zagat was really the first thing. And they curated it in a way that it was extremely trustworthy because they went out to people that were unnamed, right? It was random people. There wasn't one Zagat reviewer, right? It was everybody, and it was all done via survey. So Zagat
OG
forever.
Marketing research.
Zagat was the Bible. For my generation, my parents, they all had Zagats, right? Zagat, that was how you figured out where to go, was based upon Zagat ratings. And so for us, that was always part of the pitch for us, was we want to be the Zagat of this next generation, right? Zagat, they did an amazing job of building the physical book, and then they transitioned to the internet, and it was a membership-based thing, and they ultimately sold to Google. And then Google, ultimately we acquired it from them. But, I think that it's hard to transition platforms from physical to digital, right? And you see this all the time where it's hard. And so that left an opportunity for somebody like us to take some of those same ideals of trust and, and make it something that could evolve. And so that was always part of our thought was, hey, Zagat didn't necessarily transition to the internet the best way they possibly could have, which leads an open door for somebody to go take that. And so that was part of our vision initially. And then when the opportunity arose to acquire Zagat, we were like, oh my God, like, yes, please. And so we're still figuring out, we had a bunch of different plans for it. And now we've got some stuff happening in stealth. So you will see that brand reappear sooner than later, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like it's fun to, like with like an iconic nostalgic brand like that, to pay a little bit of homage to like their
100%.
brand voice.
Building brands is really hard. Like Zagat has so much value. Like they have been a beacon of trust for over 40 years. Like that time, building brands takes time. So having the ability to utilize that brand and do some fun stuff with it moving forward, we're really excited about.
Did you guys do collaborations with celebrities where you would have them give you their top restaurants?
Yeah.
Okay, who were some of the biggest celebrities that you guys had on Infatuation in the early days? Like who was an early person?
Days, I mean, as I said, Anthony Bourdain. Yeah. I mean, we idolized Bourdain. I mean, Bourdain is amazing. I mean, I think anybody who came up in our era about restaurants and food, I mean, he's the GOAT. Nobody will ever touch him.
What was his go-to spot?
I remember Bourdain in his picks with us included Swan Oyster Depot, which was this amazing dive oyster bar in San Francisco. And he had done, it was on his show too. But that was one of my first, when we first started the site and went to San Francisco, we went right to Swan, lined up, because there's no, you just wait for your spot outside, and like, he led us to the promised land there. And like that, he had his taste was just so impeccable. He just liked all the cool stuff, and he would go find the diamonds in the rough and whatever. Love Bourdain. But we had, we would go get Jerry Seinfeld. Shout out to Jess Seinfeld, who enabled that, who was always a longtime fan and believer in the Infatuation and really helped us get to some great celebrities back in the day. But she had Jerry do one, which was amazing. We had some Knicks, we had some Yankees. We're huge sports fans, so that was always fun. And honestly, the Top Chef stuff did really well. And because we would get the folks who were on Top Chef, whether it was Gail Simmons or Richard Blais or Padma, and not only would they share on their Facebook pages, which drove a ton of eyeballs and traffic for us, but like the Bravo Top Chef page would post. We became friends with the people who ran a lot of the marketing for Bravo. And like, if we could get back then one of them to do it, and they would post on the Bravo Top Chef page, so many new people would come find us. It's the same stuff as doing a collab post on Instagram for, with celebrities these days, right?
Or if you have a brand, having a brand wear your hat or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. So celebrity endorsements were a big part of it.
And it wasn't, we didn't pay anybody. It was just, it was organic, right? It was like, hey, finding people who were really into food. So I would constantly be on the lookout for people who were talking about the pizza they ate or the ice cream they liked, or, saw something in one of the People or Us Weekly rags about like Brad Pitt eating pizza. And you're like, all right, how do I get to Brad Pitt? Never got that. Never made that happen. But like, how do I get to Derek Jeter? How do I get to people that like our audience would also be like, oh, you guys got this person to do something for you guys? Because like that helped us level up our credibility.
Absolutely. I mean, and I know Infatuation was known for mainly highlighting like the restaurants to go to, but you guys were very honest in your reviews.
Yep.
Did you ever, and restaurateurs in New York City get very protective of, their spots. Was there ever a situation where you maybe gave a restaurant not the review that they were looking for?
All the time.
And how did you manage those conversations?
It's hard. Well, we didn't talk to anybody at the restaurants, but they would make sure they were heard after the fact. Listen, we paid for all our meals ourselves. And that was sort of the differentiating factor here, of that we always went in, we never took free meals. We never went to openings. We were never on the take. So we never owed anybody anything, right? That being said, we weren't out there trying to tear people down. I think that if you go out into the world trying to do that, even though the low reviews are the ones that are most shared, that are people want to talk about the most, and all of that. So, every once in a while we would let it rip on we would let it rip on a new restaurant, and those people were not happy about it, but in general, we were more lovers than we were haters. And we tried to be very, you have to, there's a responsibility. I mean, in the beginning, we had no idea what we was just kind of whatever, right? Like, but we certainly were not like trying to just take people down. And I think as we became a platform that had scale and size, there's a responsibility that comes along with that, right? And so these are people's livelihood. Like, you don't want to get too crazy. Like, you want to give people a shot. And like a lot of times if we go to places and we're just like, meh, not great, probably just skip it instead of like saying something super negative, you know? But that being said, there's been plenty of situations where people are unhappy with our coverage. And as I have always been, not necessarily the face, but the more publicly out there person, a lot of people will come to me, and I get the phone calls with unhappy customers.
When I think of Infatuation, I think of it as I'm going to it to find the best places to go. So you're really not always seeing the negative. I had to ask though, because these restaurateurs in New York are protective of their babies.
Of course.
You know? So what I think is like really cool about what you guys did is the going in an anonymous way, kind of like the way a Michelin star critic or reviewer goes into a restaurant. You guys would go in basically undercover, right? Or nobody would really know kind of that you were in there reviewing the food. And I feel like that is such an important factor. But was it ever hard to not be tempted by a free meal? You know, because probably in the early days it gets expensive, right? Paying for your food out at these restaurants.
Well, honestly, it was never something we considered. I just think it was always such a point of emphasis for us as like, you're not taking anything from you, right? And so we always were really focused on just, trying to be anonymous. It gets hard these days, like everybody knows, like the Infatuation New York, everybody knows the people who are the Infatuation New York. So like, it's just, now it's not about necessarily just being anonymous, even though all their reviews are made with fake names and they they're not wearing costumes or anything though, but they do have fake names that they rotate in and out of. And listen, people will recognize you and identify you. And it's just like, cool, like you can try to pay for the meal, but I'm not going to allow you to.
Did you have a fake name back in the day?
Oh yeah, tons of them. Ooh. I never had any good ones though. Okay. My fake name, I was just my wife's maiden name.
Okay, that's good.
Like, that was my fake name.
Mm-hmm,
it was
that's
pretty
smart.
simple, but other people have more elaborate and hilarious schemes. I forget some of the good ones, but they'll recognize you and be like, sometimes, and try and send out free dishes or free food, and you're just like, please, we're paying for this.
Yeah. Well, in 2021, you guys were acquired by JPMorgan, and it's been fun kind of going down just the rabbit hole of all of these different eras of Infatuation and kind of just how you guys built over the years. What has this new chapter working with JPMorgan been like for you? And, we talked about this on the run a little bit, but, music guy gets into the food world and now all of a sudden you're working at, a massive financial company, right? It's so unexpected.
I've had a lot of eras.
Yeah, a lot of eras.
It's been amazing. I mean, honestly, the acquisition partnership couldn't have gone any better. We got really lucky. JPMorgan Chase has been an amazing landing spot for the Infatuation. It's been an amazing landing spot for a lot of our employees who've gone on to have new opportunities within the bank that they're doing. There's not a lot of companies like ours that get acquired into JPMorgan Chase, right? So it actually creates, our people are unique within the landscape of the firm. And there's a lot of opportunity, and a lot of the things that we do as it relates to like creating experiences, creating content, endemic to social, endemic to events and tastemakers and amplification and, like stuff they could use some help with. And that's been a really good fit. So I'm now leading talent partnerships and culture partnerships for the bank. I work closely with all of the credit cards, but also different parts of the bank, the investment bank, the private bank, the consumer bank, and helping them work with celebrities and talent, but in authentic ways, right? Like what are a lot of people use different parts of the Chase ecosystem in their daily lives. So like, how do we double down on that and like make that an authentic connectivity point so that we can do content and marketing with people that make sense, And so, we're just talking to you about like, it'd be really interesting to think about, we're working, there's a new card, the Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business. We just did a whole new, all these new benefits on the Sapphire Reserve card, as well as its brand new card for business. And, we could have you host a running show, right? Where we funnel in a bunch of really cool entrepreneurs who we want to work with and storytell, who use the Sapphire for Business card in their daily lives, who use Chase Business Banking, which I know you said,
Guys, I'm a full Chase user. It's the only credit cards that I have are right. Chase. Yeah.
So like, there's just like fun storylines that we could do and think about ways that we can integrate into culture, in ways that feel good and feel authentic. And
Right.
so, the acquisition has gone really well. And for the Infatuation, which I don't work on that much anymore these days, which is crazy, but also amazing.
It must be nice for you, right? Because I feel like oftentimes we've had a lot of founders on the show, and I think the biggest thing that they talk about is like sometimes it's just it's like you're such a creative entrepreneurial person to work on one thing only for so many years. Can get a little obviously you guys do so much with Infatuation, but it's nice to.
It's like your baby. It's like, we're doing a sweet 16 party this week. We've been around for 16 years. So like, it's grown up, and it's different than it was 10 years ago or 16 years ago, And so, but it's amazing to still be able to be totally adjacent to it, associated with it, and to see it flourish. And JPMorgan Chase have given it opportunities to continue to grow and evolve and scale. It's phenomenal. So the whole thing has worked out really well.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're really at the forefront of some major partnerships, right? Like, did you just work on the Hailey Bieber Sapphire partnership?
Yep, for sure.
What would you say, like, there's so many like people out there that are in the creator industry or, work within it. Like, what are some of the things that you look for with talent and people that are good fits to
I think people that are passionate about something other than like, especially like, we can pay anybody to just be in a commercial, but like, that doesn't take you so far in this day and age, right? You want to have a through line to some other stuff. Like the Hailey thing as an entrepreneur, I mean, what she did with Rode is unbelievable. That team, like what they were able to do in 5 years, building that brand and differentiating themselves from everything else in that ecosystem and then selling it for $1 billion to Elf, it's unreal. And like JPMorgan was involved in that transaction, right? And so like that thread was a great one to pull on to think about Hailey as an entrepreneur and celebrity who would make a lot of sense for a campaign that the Sapphire Reserve team was building out, right? And so that made a lot of sense. And she, her celebrity and her moment right now, I mean, she's growing up and she's doing amazing things, right? And like we've been working with Tom Holland a bunch on, he has a non-alcoholic beer brand called Bureau that he's super leaned into and super passionate about because he loves a pint, but he doesn't drink alcohol anymore. And so he started this business because he really wanted to have a beer that he was into. And now we're distributing his beer at the Sapphire Reserve airport lounges. We are working with him on some things around the Sapphire for Business card. We, underwrote his padel tournament in London as part of a Wimbledon thing that we did together. So like we're integrating into his world, he's integrating into our world. And it's just a really good serendipitous partnership that has value on both sides, right? So just looking for opportunities like that with people who are passionate and that have business endeavors that can like, add value, that we can add value to, in addition to them adding value to the things that we're working on.
Yeah. I asked you this on our run, but just to elaborate a little further on it is, could you imagine telling your 20-year-old self that you're working at Chase right now, running partnerships?
No, that would be, me working at a bank was never something that I envisioned in my life, but honestly, I wouldn't change anything. So it's working out really well. And this place has been really good to us, and excited about the future.
Is music still a big part of your life?
Yeah, of course. I mean, music will forever be a passion of mine, and so many relationships that we built in the music business. In the field that we work on, we're still working closely with booking bands and artists, and, we have a big partnership with Apple Music right now, through a Sapphire Reserve partnership that we're doing a lot with. And we get to stay grounded and, in a lot of the music stuff that I grew up in. So still have all those relationships and get to participate in it without being fully in it.
Yeah, it's cool. It seems like what you do now is really a combination of all of the things that you're passionate about, which, sometimes you never think you get that at a bank, but you really do, right? Like
I somehow that has worked out.
You have built your dream job. All right. Well, I have some pop questions for you. Some of them were submitted by our audience. Some of them were submitted by me.
Sounds good.
So here we go. What's one NYC restaurant that's worth the hype?
Via Carota. Everybody, Via Carota, just one of the best restaurants in New York. Go to lunch move all the time. Get there early. Get there at 11:30. See if you can squeeze yourself into a table, because you won't be able to get a reservation for the most part. But I love Via Carota. And like the people watching at Via Carota, it doesn't get better.
Yeah, it's so good. Which city has the best food scene outside of New York City?
Los Angeles. I mean, there's just the LA food scene, Anna Jack Thai. I mean, people are tired about me talking about Anna Jack, but like There's just so much good stuff in LA. LA is so vast, and
Yeah.
and I think that over the last like 5 or 6 years, it's really become an amazing place to eat.
Well, we're going to be living in LA for the winter, so I'm going to
go.
need a list of good spots there. When you're at a restaurant and the food is mid, do you finish it?
Probably.
Yeah.
I generally clean my plate.
Yeah.
If it's really mid, though, if it's really mid, then no.
Yeah.
But it just depends on what kind of mid we're talking about.
I was at a restaurant last night, an Italian restaurant, and I really liked truffle gnocchi, and the truffle gnocchi was just not hitting, and I finished it. But I was like, I'm paying for it. I'm going to finish it.
You need those carbs for the run.
Yeah. Best restaurant bathroom in New York City.
I don't know my answer. I don't have a good. We have a whole guide on that. Go to the Infatuation and check out the bathroom. There's definitely like an Infatuation guide to the best restaurants in New York City, but I don't go to a lot of restaurants anymore.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, like I'm kind of retired. Like I'll go.
What's
but
your
like,
go-to spot in Connecticut?
I don't know. There's no place to go in Connecticut.
You're like, I'm cooking my meals at home.
There's no place to go in Connecticut.
Okay, well, those are our pop questions.
Actually, that's not true. I went to Row 8 and Seafood this past weekend, and that place is amazing.
Okay, there we go.
Lobster rolls, oysters, really good.
All right, well, Andrew, thank you so much for being with me today.
Yep, thanks for having me. Good times.
awesome.
Keep on doing your thing. This is amazing.
Thank you.